Hey everybody, welcome. It is the CI7 Winners Bracket Finals between Baddummy and Super Epic Ampharos, aka SEA. This is not an elimination match because, like I said, these players are both still in the winners bracket, but it is pretty huge here because whoever wins here will have the massive advantage not only of being guaranteed at least second place, they can't ever get third, so it's a big money jump, but additionally, they'll also be in the upper bracket when the grand finals get played, meaning they would have to be beaten in two separate best of fives in order to not win the tournament. So, pretty huge advantage. I also want to note that this is the final best of three match. From here on out, after this match, it'll become best of five. And the other quick note, real quick, is that SEA did message me. You may have heard me refer to SEA in previous narrations as he or him, but they did message me recently and ask to be, from here on out, referred to as they, them, and I will do my very best to remember and respect that from this narration forward. So that's what we're looking at here, and we have a Salamence on Zapdos lead, Rick Isley. I'm Rick Isley. Baddummy is on the bottom. He won his play-in bracket, and now he's here, an incredible accomplishment. And then we've got SEA on the top, who was in the tournament for the first time as of last year, had a decent finish, but wasn't happy with the way that they went out. And now, obviously, going to be happy with this performance, quite a bit deeper, guaranteed money, and hell, has a real good shot to win the whole tournament. So back to the matter at hand, neither player was comfortable with the opening matchup. Rick went back to a Cloyster and got a lair down of spikes, and C not overly able to punish that here. Gonna go for a return, which is meh on Tar. Tar shows that it is lefties. It could be a DD Tar on what is a very aggressive team, which is often the case with Cloyster. Usually these teams are very aggro. But I guess if you want the Cloyster to be a bad Foray and to actually be able to spin, it could be a Pursuit Tower. My guess, however, would be that it's something closer to the physical side and that this team is very, very aggressive. So good on Rick there to scout for EQ, and he's correct. There is, in fact, Earthquake on that Lax as he doubles back to Gengar, which blanks it. The fact that it has returned an Earthquake does not mean that it doesn't have Shadow Ball. It could. I mean, it could be one of those teams. For C, it could be like Magneton, Houndoom in the back, for example, and it actually is a Curse, Rest, all-in Lax kind of squad. But it also could just be that it's a utility Lax with, say, Return, EQ, Shadow Ball, Boom, or something to that effect. Cloyster Bliss, I don't hate. They can be a little bit awkward together, and that was a huge Fire Blast. Magneton definitely not expecting that and would have survived, comfortably survived, more normal things like S-Toss, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt. Fire Blast there with the one-hit KO. Pretty good turn there for Rick. Here comes the follow-up with Metagross, which we see also has lefties, so we can rule out Lum or the way, way less common Pinchberry. I've seen it where, like, Metagross can double-edge itself with the recoil down to, like, Lychee Berry, for example. And those sets are probably pretty underexplored, but we're not looking at that here. The full team by just turn 9 has been revealed for Rick, and I wasn't expecting that in the back for SEA either. We've got Executor. I'm not quite sure. It looked just like a normal physical offense kind of team for the most part, and then there was an Executor. So I don't know exactly what we're looking at here, and it's going to give Rick some pause too. It doesn't love T-Wave from Zapdos, which it is absolutely outsped by. There's also the possibility of Drill Peck, also the possibility of HP Ice. However, it's also possible that it's just like, whatever, a Sub-Pass, Thunderbolt, HP Grass Zapdos, or something to that effect, and it doesn't actually threaten the Executor all that much. Also, both Drill Peck and HP Ice, while threatening, do not one-hit KO the Executor from this HP, so got to be aware of the possibility of Boom, which seems to be what Rick was playing around there, trying to get it blown up on into a Protect, but C did not take the bait, simply clicked Psychic, and yeah, no harm, no foul, back to where we were. Boom's still very much on the table here, and it is HP Ice, but he's going to go for Wish. One of the nifty utility moves. If you're going to use Executor over Celebi, you better have a damn good reason. So those damn good reasons might include Explosion, Wish, Sleep Powder, those are three crucial moves that Celebi does not get. Celebi, obviously, the better Pokemon, but like I said, if you're going to use Executor, you better take advantage of its strengths. Otherwise, you are just using a bad Celebi. So the Executor is already kind of banged up, and it's going to have to step on a spike next time it comes in. So I really don't know that it's going to get all that much done this game. Maybe if he can find his way in against something it outspeeds or against a paralyzed or sleeping Pokemon, it could get a boom off. But even then, it might just boom into Cloyster or Tar or Gar. So I don't think the Executor is going to accomplish all that much. It did pass Wish to Lax here. We'll see if that ends up mattering. And in fact, the Lax does have Shadow Ball. So like I said, it has all of Return and Shadow Ball and Earthquake. Last move probably just Boom, but good thing for Rick, again, scouting and knowing that the Shadow Ball could still be there, even though it already showed Return and Earthquake. So that Boom is meh. It takes out the Executor, which is probably the least valuable target at this point of the game for SEA. But at the same time, the Cloyster was low, and you might as well do something on the way out. So Boom is fine, and it did get its one spike down that it doesn't look like SEA has the ability to remove. Still hasn't shown their last either, so depending on what that is, it could be threatening here. Could be something like a Suicune that takes advantage of the Magneton. Could also just be Digitar, of course. This matchup's always awkward. Meta really doesn't want to get burned, and we know he's not Lumberry, so if he's burned, he's burned. But at the same time, if burn misses, or even if it doesn't, you really don't want to eat a Mash, or even worse, a Psychic. But they're both going to stay in, take it on the chin. Will-O-Wisp does connect. The burn, like I said, super relevant. But even with the burn, the non-boosted, non-choice band burnt Mash is going to do 51%, because it really does just hit Gengar that hard. Gengar, generally speaking, is one of the most difficult Pokemon for this kind of team, for SEA, to switch into. Both the coverage and the WoW are big problems and super duper relevant. I think I favor Rick's position in this game. Certainly not over, and especially without knowing the last poke for C. Not going to call it over. Could just be a sweeper, could just be a last Coon, last Tar, whatever that just gets there. But as it stands, I definitely favor Rick's position. He's up a poke. The meta's burnt. There's a spike down. Yeah. I think I like Rick's spot at this moment. Other than Boom, Zapdos should be pretty safe here. Even Rock Slide would not be that exciting with the burn. And I think Rick there, that switch was anticipating either a Boom or a Rock Slide. And T-Tower would have been happy in either case, but he does just click, or sorry, the meta, the meta clicks Meteor Mash into the Zapdos, which is a hard play to make. And here comes the Lax. Hidden Power we know from earlier because we saw super effective on the Executor. We know that that's ice, not grass, but I don't think I guess it could be Swampert in the back. Sure. But I don't think the lack of grass is going to be all that relevant in this matchup. That crit matters, and para, so damn near perfect Thunderbolt. The only way that gets better is if he full paras, but crit and para pretty devastating, and now the Lax is in trouble. Yeah, C's going to let it go. So that leaves us at a 3-5, and C still hasn't shown their last poke. And probably that last poke is going to be necessary to win. But still not comfortable showing it. Going to go back to the meta, which of course is still suffering from the burn. Zapdos very well may stay in and click Thunderbolt here, but Rick also may want to save it because if it outspeeds the Mence, and we don't know if it does or not, we know it's got HP Ice, so that's a great deterrent. And again, going to go for Protect, which is double duty. Not only would that have caught a Boom, but also it's going to get a little bit more burn damage on the meta. Here comes Swampert, and it is the Boom. Does a lot, but it doesn't kill. Maybe that opens the door, depending on the last, which we now know is the Suicune, which was my first guess that I mentioned earlier. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, depends on the set, but maybe Suicune has a shot here. There is a Zapdos and a Gengar on the other side that can threaten it, and a Blissey that can wall it at least for a little while, but Crocoon in particular could really get going and be a threat here. It's definitely possible that C wins this game on the back of that Coon. It's going to be interesting. I still favor Rick, but I don't think it's a lock, especially if it's Crocoon. Crocoon is the ideal set for it to be here for Super Epic Ampharos. And the tire switch, I don't know if I like that. Well, Hydro Pump, of course, could have missed, and that would be bad, but it didn't. But allowing the Calm Mind is questionable, I think. I think I might have gone to Bliss there if I were Baddummy. It's kind of letting the Coon get going now. Like, I mean, you can go to Zapdos, but do you even outspeed? It looks like it does based on who's taking sand damage first, so I guess you're just following up with a Thunderbolt? But then what? Toxic. And Ice Beam, respectively. Okay. Well, if it's a non-rest Coon, then that should suffice. Then the Blissey should be able to stall it out until Toxic kills it. If it is a rest Coon, this gets a lot more interesting. And despite being at 80-something, going to go for Soft Boiled anyway and play it really safe. So you're going to take the opportunity to CM up. So second boost at 70%, still suffering from the Toxic. The question, of course, is the last move something like HP Electric or Grass? Is it something like Sub? Or is it Rest? Because this changes completely if this Suicune has Rest, which is the ideal thing for it to have if you are sitting in SEA's seat. If it doesn't have Rest, I think Baddummy has this. But then again, with 3 boosts, maybe a crit Hydro Pump right now could get him. If it doesn't have Rest, then he's going to need luck. He's going to need to either freeze it, or crit it, or whatever it may be. So those would be the outs from C's position. It either has Rest, or you just get there. You just find a crit. You just find a freeze. Unfortunately, though, if it gets down to Salamence and Gengar, like let's say the Suicune does trade with the Blissey, but then it dies to the poison, you would still be boned from C's seat because the Gengar just outspeeds the Mence, clicks Ice Punch, GG's. Yeah, it's really, really going to matter. The last move on this set, like I said, could be HP Electric, HP Grass, Substitute, Roar. Rest is what C really wants to have here. Not playing like he has it, but does the Suicune have Rest? I mean, certainly C, if their Coon has Rest, certainly C will click that here. Can't wait any more turns. Clearly, if you've got it, you click it now. And they do not. It's going to be a Hydro Pump, and I don't know that the miss there matters, but insult to injury, it does miss, and that's got to be the game, because even if it were a DD Mence, which we see that it is, it doesn't hold your horses. It's a bulky DD Mence. Alright, small chance. It's very simple now. If you're C, you just have to crit or flinch the Bliss. It's as simple as that. It's at 100%. You can never kill it with regular damage. Rock Slide there, I think, is a boo-boo, and that makes it anticlimactic. I think the play from C's position there was to just click Hidden Power Flying, which would have killed the Swampert. And then you get down to you against Bliss, and you probably have to Rock Slide, flinch it once, and then on the following turn, you fish for crit or flinch. The reason that you would have to get luck, I think, more than once is because if the Salamence is so bulky as to where it can live that Ice Beam pretty comfortably, it took, air quotes, only 81%, which, I mean, again, I say only like that isn't a massive amount, but keep in mind that it normally just gets one hit KO'd. So if you're taking 81% there, then the Mence must have been very, very invested in special defense and or HP or some combo of them, and therefore it probably doesn't have as much attack as most Mence, which is why I don't think it was going to be able to one-hit KO the Blissey there even with a crit, and therefore would have needed a flinch and then luck, whether that luck was another flinch or a crit. But yeah, as it stands, Baddummy, who, like I said, was a play-in player this year, is now 1 game away from the grand finals. Has not lost a match in play-ins, has not lost a match in main. Baddummy, who has played play-ins numerous times and had never even made it to the finals of play-ins prior to this, never mind 1 play-ins, he had struggled in it, to be honest. He had gone out in the first and second round a number of times, but times change, and it only takes once. It doesn't matter what happened then. Here we are now. He is 1 game away from being in the grand finals, which is pretty crazy. And we've got a little bit of a pause in between. Looking at the chat a little bit on my phone, a lot of those guys also thought that C's Suicune might have had rest there. Certainly C wishes that the Suicune had rest, but it just didn't. Some matchups rest would be better, and obviously whatever last move he had there, HP Electric, HP Grass, whatever, some matchups that would be better. Or perhaps it was simply a Sub-Coon. There's no reason to click Sub once you've already been hit with that Toxic, so would stand to reason that if it's that, we would never have seen it. But like I said, guys, just reminding you of the stakes. Loser here is not eliminated. They go down to the lower bracket to the 3rd place match, and we already know who that's going to be against, by the way. You should go back and see my previous video, which I just uploaded maybe an hour ago, if you haven't seen that result already. But it was Fakes against Mana for the 4th place match, and the loser of that, of course, has been eliminated with no money. But the winner of that, which, like I said, it already happened, so we know who that is, and I'm not going to spoil it, but the winner of that is going to be the person who faces the loser of this to determine our 3rd place finisher. And like I said, that match is going to be best of 5, as are all matches after this one. So we wait. A little bit surprised by the pause, but again, I get it. With the amount of money on the line, with the advantage of the upper bracket on the line, I get it. And I know that C is someone who struggles sometimes with nerves and anxiety. Not sure if that's true for Rick or not, but it's totally possible that C is over there a little nervous, a little shaken at the moment, and kind of needs a moment to themselves to recompose and get a drink and whatever they've got to do to get their head in it and make this comeback. Well, I suppose while we're waiting, I'll just tell you that donations are still open and will remain open until the end of the tournament, but, you know, I'd be happy to have any, but we really don't even need any more. We're over 3,000. It's such a good prize pool. It's a number that I never thought this tournament would see, and it's tremendous how much it's grown. But if you do want to donate, donations are still open and will remain open till the end. They're accepted, they're appreciated, and you'll get the love and credit you deserve. Here is game 2. Like I said, Rick up a game. So Baddummy on the bottom, Zapdos up 1-0, SEA down 1, but perfectly capable of coming back in this best of 3 with a meta. Usually, Zapdos is fine with this matchup and Meta is not, though there is the possibility, of course, of Rock Slide, CB Rock Slide, Meta clicking Toxic, Meta clicking Boom, and Meta's going to stay in here. So here's Rachi anticipating all of those things, would resist the Rock Slide or the Boom, would be immune to the Toxic. Certainly, if the Meta's going to stay, Rachi's a nice, great switch there. I mean, are you ever Earthquaking as Meta there? Rachi's very safe. So where do you go from here? I believe that is a non-CB Rock Slide, so got to know from Rick's seat that Meta can change it up and just click Earthquake on you now, or something to that effect. And Starmie comes in, and it is Earthquake. Takes it reasonably well, so I'm going to assume it is not a strictly offensive Starmie. Perhaps the good old T-Wave Star, which I'm a big fan of, the bold, bulky T-Wave Star. And indeed, that's what it is. And he gets a power off on Meta, which is pretty good. And it should be a soft-boiled tier. And there's a Sceptile on the other side. Man, look at the Goyonis on C. Down a game in Winners Bracket Finals. has the courage to bring Sceptile. This is only the second Sceptile appearance of the tournament. The first one was in the hands of Mana, I believe. Mana or Arctic, one of those two. But it won. I remember that. So can we get a 2-0 Sceptile? Certainly when you dodge Megahorn after landing Leech Seed, that's a good start. This is going to be really obnoxious for Rick. Now granted, Sceptile, the problem with Subseed, and of course you're obligated to have Leaf Blade, you can't cover everything. It does learn things like Focus Punch, Dragon Claw, Thunder Punch, HP Ice, Focus Punch, all that. But you can't have all of that. You've got Subseed and Leaf Blade, so you only have one more move. Part of me, it depends on the team, and Leech Seed is so good, so maybe I'm just dumb, but part of me wonders if Sceptile would be better. Not like this Sceptile on this team. We don't know what the team is. We've only seen two pokes. But just generally speaking, I wonder if Sceptile would be more viable in some matchups with just substitute 3 attacks and ditching Leech Seed. But Leech Seed is just so good. I like it better with Spikes, though, which C has not managed to establish. It certainly doesn't mean they don't have a Spiker. Haven't seen 4 of their pokes, but certainly Leech Seed excites me more if there's Spikes down and there is a punishment for switching. Because right now the Sceptile is very annoying and I'm sure frustrating to play against. But it isn't really threatening anything. It isn't really ever going to break through here. Without knowing the last move, we can't feel 100% safe. But I would think that the Jirachi, by and large, shuts down the Sceptile here. It's actually C taking the time and figuring out what to do. Rick already locked in his moves, so see what C wants to do here. Like I said, I feel like Rick can largely dance around this and stall it out of Leech Seeds slowly but surely if it really comes to it. I guess a bulkier, sturdier team is probably better at that, but with Rick, who seemingly has something of an offensive team, could probably still stall it out if he needed to. And it's the worst feeling there. C is going to switch out from behind a sub, which it never feels good. Feels quite bad, in fact, but it might be right in this situation. I think C correctly identified that their Sceptile probably wasn't going to be able to get it done here. Probably wasn't going to be able to crack through. I don't hate Sceptile. I think it's hard to fit on teams, certainly, because it doesn't really offer a lot of defensive utility, but I think it really can be a great threat. It's very fast and it hits pretty hard, and as it turns out, grass coverage is pretty good in this metagame. But I like it a lot more either in the back, like the way back, the last thing you reveal and it cleans up, or with Spikes. And I'm not sure that C has either of those things in this game. Hidden Power connects, and Psychic breaks with a critical hit there, which of course didn't matter because it had already eaten the previous Psychic, so anything would have broken it, but it is very noteworthy that Psychic initially didn't break, and it very well may be EV'd to where Psychic never breaks. I love EVing my sub-Zapdoses to where Claydol Psychic doesn't break. You can use it as setup bait, which is one of my favorite ways to abuse it. So there you go. Sceptile shows its last move. Hidden Power, almost certainly Ice. So full set revealed, and with that information, Rick knows that his Jirachi can wall that Sceptile all day, which is part of the reason I didn't love revealing it so early for C, because I don't think it's going to do anything now. I think Rick is going to keep his Jirachi around, and Sceptile is going to do a whole lot of nothing so long as that Jirachi is there. It'll be different if C can make like a double and trap the Jirachi with Dugtrio or something and pick it off in that way. Then maybe the Sceptile can go wild, but as it stands, it is shut down completely by that Jirachi. It resists both attacking moves. It doesn't care about Leech Seed. It can ignore the Sceptile all day. This one a little bit slower than the previous game. Turn 20 here, game 2. Baddummy up a game. 4-4 situation with 2 unrevealeds for both players. It is SEA once again. figuring out what they want to do, using that timer. Gotta think that Jirachi is going to come in for Rick. And I'm sure C knows that, just figuring out how they'd like to respond to that probable sequence, what they want to set up into the Jirachi here. It doesn't look like C has a fantastic switch, even if he knows the Rachi is coming. You could go to, like, Claydol or something with the EQ, but isn't that just going to prompt a Zapdos that you don't beat? I'm not sure about the team for SEA. I'm not sure. I'm a little skeptical. It's not because of the Sceptile. I don't know. Don't know this is built optimally. I got to see the last two before I jump to that conclusion, but Rick doesn't even have the world's bulkiest team by any means. Rick has, like, at least a balanced team, if not an outright offense here, and C's team seems to really be struggling to break through. There's the obvious Rachi, and C elects to stay in and just click Leech Seed. Fair enough. The real question, does Rick have a second thing that he could juggle back and forth with the Jirachi to neutralize the Sceptile here? If the answer is yes, then the Sceptile is really truly going to be useless. If the answer is no, it becomes mildly interesting. Still not thinking that the Sceptile is going to do much this game. Heracross coming in on Claydol is a good sequence for Baddummy. However, he's going to go for Mega Horn rather than Rock Slide, which is not the ideal thing when Salamence comes in. And presumably Heracross is going to run away like a bitch in the face of this dragon. And Sceptile coming in on Starmie is good, but it's the same thing. It's just going to prompt in the Jirachi. And that's going to get us a new Pokemon revealed for SEA. They've got a Suicune, just as they did last game. Believe they are a big fan of Suicune, as am I. Last time I submitted viability rankings, I think I had Suicune at 7, which is higher than the vast majority of those who voted. And I stand by it. I think Coon is super, 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 super good. Really, truly do. And I think all of the traditional Rest Roar set, Sub-Coon, Crow-Coon, CM3 attack off-Coon, I think all of those sets, super duper viable and powerful. So Rick is going to go to T-Tar here in the back. And it's a Sub-Coon, which it very well may have been last game as well, but we never did get to see. But the sub as T-Tar comes in, probably not what Rick was hoping for. Maybe, best case, it's a Roartar, and C, who I think should just click Hydro Pump here, or Surf. Maybe C clicks Calm Mind, and then Rick roars him out, and it's major crisis averted here. I think to play around the possibility of Roar, I think in C's position, you should just click your Water attack here. And I don't think it's overly likely that the T-Tar has Roar, but it's certainly not impossible, and you certainly have to respect the possibility. I know that Rick in general doesn't really want to leave home without Roar. He's very paranoid and cautious, isn't super comfortable for exactly these kind of situations without having access to Roar. And I definitely agree, like I said, with just clicking your Water attack there. So C is being pretty consistent with their preferences. It is a sub-Hydro Pump Coon 2 games in a row. I like Sub-Coon. I generally prefer Surf over Hydro Pump. C sees it differently. That's fine. Gonna get some work done here as the Zapdos goes down. The Sub-Coon looks very difficult, I think, for Baddummy. And the full team now revealed for SEA. This is the world's weirdest Magdoll team. The Magneton makes plenty of sense, given the Sceptile set that is completely shut off by Skarmory. So if you're going to run that set of Sceptile, yeah, you probably do need Magneton. But yeah, this is the world's weirdest and most unconventional Magdoll team that SEA has brought to the party here. That being said, I mean, C is in reasonable shape this game, up a poke. Some of their stuff is paralyzed, though. The Meta, the Mag. It's close. It really is. It really, again, it really depends on what the last poke is for Rick. This Starmie very reliably is going to be able to shut off this meta. Attack raise is very necessary to give the meta a shot in this matchup. Otherwise, Starmie's going to be able to stay in here and wait for full powers and get a couple surfs in as needed. Can recover off any damage. Bold Starmie, very good. My partner in crime, Jabba the Griffin, not a fan, and he has the right to be wrong, but Bold Starmie, very good. Both players using the timer. Like I said, this game feels clearly slower, in my view, than the pace of the previous game. Both of these players, no matter what happens, are guaranteed money already in this tournament. The worst either of these guys can do, no matter what, is third place, which as it sits is over $600 right now. And the winner here, the worst they can do, is second place, which is over $900 right now. So money coming to both of these players, and they got to be happy about that. But obviously, you're this far, you want to win the tournament. Money's a wonderful consolation prize, but in it to win it. You're this far, you want the title, you want the even bigger stack of cash. That is the goal. Recover there, pretty obvious, and there is EQ. Rick can continue to recover here if he so chooses and wait for an eventual full para. He could also go for surf here, but in doing so, he would risk that C switches and Rick does not get the opportunity to heal his Starmie. Alternatively, that would open him up to a crit. But there are some benefits, like as you see, had Rick gone for surf there, that would have been quite good. Claydol would have been smacked by it, and then C would be in an awkward position where they have to determine whether they should stay in or switch, and either way, not great because of major, major chip on your like deathbed Claydol. Not clear who's winning this game. Not clear who's winning this game. It's a close one. If I had to venture a prediction right now, turn 34, I think I favor Baddummy's position a little bit more, despite the fact that he's down a poke. But I feel far from certain, far from positive that I'm correct with that. I think this is still anybody's game. I really wish I knew the last poke for Baddummy. That is obviously very relevant information. And again, it's both players using the timer, not just one or the other. C is lower, though. They're down to just 60 seconds and possibly still counting. We'll get another update in a moment. Nope, we've got a move. And the move is Baddummy switches T-Tar into EQ. Pretty ballsy there for C to click that. Very well may have just been smashed in the face by a surf, but had the courage to stay in and click EQ and is rewarded. And they will follow it up with another EQ. That one lands on the original target, the Starmie, rather than the tower again, but the EQ on the tower is relevant chip for sure. We'll see pull the trigger on another one. Yeah, there you go. 3 earthquakes in a row as Baddummy tosses his tower. I guess after eating that EQ, it really didn't have a lot of purpose in this game. So if Rick was ahead, again, not on paper because the Mon down, but like given the full game state, certainly not the case anymore. C is looking to push us to a third game here. Substitute makes it interesting. Rock Slide won't kill here without a crit, especially with Intimidate, but it is a threat, and Mence can't sit there and DD up. It must deal with the substitute. There's a meaningful chip, 43%, putting Mence into the red. And the last poke is revealed for Rick. It's Swampert as DD happens. I guess we're just going to attack on the way out, right? I don't think the Mence has too much purpose unless you are bound and determined to keep it just for the ability to intimidate the Heracross, and by that I mean intimidate the Heracross like once, because the Mence is so low. But once again, the Suicune, the sub-hydro pump Suicune from C, just as they brought in the previous game, this game it looks like it could be very difficult. It looks like a poke that Baddummy might lose the game to. Ice Beam, obviously, aimed at Salamence there. Doesn't do a whole heck of a lot to meta, just 8%. And again, timer being used in a more deliberate game. Here comes the Sceptile, and that is a swing and a miss on Protect, trying to get boomed on. Now the Sceptile, even though its coverage is not that exciting against Jirachi plus Heracross, Leech Seed is very, very annoying when there are that many fewer pokes still in play. Yeah, between the Sceptile and the Suicune, I think that C should be able to push through in this case. It's not over, but I think I now prefer C's position and believe that C is probably going to push us to a Game 3. Here's Hera coming in on sub. Going to have to eat either a Leech Seed or a Leaf Blade here before the sub gets popped, and that's if Mega Horn even connects. See the timer ticking again for C, but not egregiously low. 60 seconds, decent amount of time to play with, especially when it goes up if you hurry up and click. And it is just Leech Seed. Mega Horn does connect this time, but all that's good for is popping the sub. Nothing preventing the re-establishment of the sub, which is very likely what will happen here. I wonder if Rick is just going to stay in and just keep spamming attacks to at least try to keep the Sceptile off of Substitute. Is he going to sacrifice Hera here? Options kind of limited here. No, back to Jirachi, and it is, of course, just Substitute again. Check on Leech Seed PP real quick. That one misses, actually. So 8 of them left. I'm not sure if any of those hit the Zapdos, so it actually might have one less because of pressure, but as it stands, now 7 of them left. And Leech Seed is going to miss twice in a row, which gets past a Heracross here. Probably be a 3rd Leech Seed in a row here. And Hera will either Mega Horn. I wonder if Rock Slide pops the sub. I would speculate that it probably does. But Rick either calced it and knows that I'm wrong, or is just not comfortable, I guess. But Rock Slide, of course, being 5% more accurate than Mega Horn, you should be clicking that if it is guaranteed to break the sub. And like I said, I would speculate that it breaks the sub, but I'm not amazing with more standard calcs. Never mind the Heracross versus Sceptile calc. I will shamelessly admit that I don't have that one memorized. Well, Focus Punch will obviously pop the sub, so there's that. Back to Rachi. Back to sub. Rick doing what he can to hold this thing off. Stalling it out does seem to be the right play, especially when he's able to occasionally pass the Wish over to Heracross. Jirachi on Claydol now. Timer getting low. SCA down to just 30 seconds to make their move. 20 seconds to make their move. Rick isn't exactly drowning in timer either, but in this moment, 90 seconds feels like a hell of a lot more than 15 seconds. Is Rick reconsidering? Because we would have already seen the 10-second warning if it were for SEA. So I think Rick actually must now be thinking, yeah, Rick having some second thoughts. Here's the switch back to Hera. And a great double for C. The wish pass to Hera is relevant, but the one-hit KO threat is very real. HP flying for the Mence that we know outspeeds it. Would kill him here. But SEA, again, all over the prediction. Knows there's going to be a switch. Makes the double accordingly. Makes the triple accordingly. And Rick's going to attack. Rain Dance coming down. Removing the sand. Could be relevant. Could be relevant. No more sand, and we know that neither player has the ability to reestablish sand. I'm going to, Swampert could have Sandstorm, but A, it doesn't. B, wouldn't be permanent sand. So for all intents and purposes, rain and or weatherless for the rest of the game. Suicune coming in, benefiting from the rain. Hydro Pump here hits like a truck, and Rick is going to have to find a way to hold it off. But if he does get cleaned up by this Suicune, that would send us to a third game. And as I said before, and as I'll say again, it is a best of 3. We are not in the best of 5 stages yet. Wow, even with the rain boost, the Suicune gets out of the way. Surprised by that switch for C. Ice Beam again, aimed at Mence, is going to blank off the meta. Back to a weatherless game. The timer pressure is real, and this is a weird, complicated situation. NC is the one who's down a game. Gotta be sweating over there, but the timer pressure is real. Decisions have to be made. So that Surf can never 2-hit KO here unless crit or torrent range. And torrent range doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon. That Earthquake did just 21%. Here comes Hera. Safely in on Earthquake. It's a good turn for Rick. Should be able to get a free attack off here. Can, of course, just click Mega Horn, or can Rock Slide if he thinks that Salamence is going to come in. Mence is at 23% now. Yeah, that would survive a Mega Horn, and there's no sand anymore. So this actually is a prediction. And Rick's going to get it right. Claydol stays in, and it is Mega Horn. Brings us back to a 4-4. Rick is pulling it back. I've been back and forth in who I think is going to win this game. I guess I'll stay consistent and think that it's C, but it's clearly anybody's game here. Another Intimidate that matters. There's been really good doubles this game from C. Calm Mind up. And EQ 27% here. Not a bad chunk, but the Suicune this whole time has been the biggest threat. Not when it misses, though. I mean, you can't feel too bad. There's a reason why Hydro Pump and Surf both have their merit. Obviously, Hydro Pump can miss sometimes. But it's not too late. Just can't miss again. 10 seconds, though. Decision has to be made. Man, losing a timer when we're this deep would be devastating. Back to Mence. Scary. I mean, it worked. Didn't get Ice Beam sniped, but was probably thinking there would be a switch there, or maybe just wanted to come in on EQ and get some lefties. Starmie on meta is interesting at this point. C's been very conservative with their meta. I don't know at what point they just say fuck it and click boom I mean, it's relatively healthy at this point, but Rick's going aggro. And there you go. C's had enough. Boom. It's a trade. Leaves us in a 3-3. Still unclear who wins here. Very back and forth. I mean, this feels like every Rick game. Every single Rick game, it feels like he's not supposed to win, but he just hangs in and somehow wins the late game anyway, which is an awesome quality to have, but I don't know how he does it. Better end of the switch war goes to SEA, and Baddummy is not able to stick it out and just click Ice Beam there. Predict the Sceptile, click Ice Beam, bam, bam. But super hard play to make in real time, because if you're wrong, it's devastating. Rachi on Suicune. Double switches certainly favor C because he needs their squad needs the lefties more than Rick's does as a whole. C would appreciate getting their Salamence, lefties, everybody really. Their whole team is at about half. 5 seconds though for SEA is, I mean, the timer is very, very real here. Gotta make a play. Probably back to Salamence. If you think he's gonna Rock Slide, then you could just click Leech Seed, but you gotta make a play. It is back to Mence and it is Focus Punch. Crucially, the Mence survives, which is really all that matters here. It's either you live or you don't. And the one-hit KO threat on Hera is still real, but it's the same problem of how do you get through the Swampert. That's the real issue. I mean, probably from C's end, and it's very difficult to think it out when there's this little time on their timer, but at some point I think they're just going to have to give up the Salamence and just get there with the Suicune. That feels like the only way out to me. Certainly coming in on Earthquake is not what C had in mind. That might do it. Rick may have made this comeback successfully. That Earthquake was quite good. Like I said, I can't help but wonder, and it's moving too fast for me to really be able to sit back and analyze, but I can't help but wonder if C should have just given up the Salamence eventually, gotten the Suicune in safely and for free on the Swampert, click Calm Mind and just get there, even if that involves a crit or a freeze or whatever it is. That to me feels like what was supposed to happen here. Now, I think C is probably in some trouble. But it's been so back and forth, and like I said, this one definitely longer, both in terms of number of turns and also the speed at which the players are playing. This one definitely taking more time than the previous. Leech Seed Fire Punch, sure. The more pokes go down, the more obnoxious Leech Seed becomes. But Leaf Blade there on Hera, pretty damn underwhelming at 17%. What do you do now? Do you sub and pray that Megahorn misses? It's not really a good switch to Hera anymore. The Mence is too low. Rick looks like he's damn close to going from play-ins to grand finals, which is insanity. But that's looking like where we are, or at least where we're about to be. C in desperation mode. They opt for sub and pray for a miss. Doesn't come, nor does the follow-up. No more HP to sub. You must just dodge the old-fashioned way. I think the play from C's end here is click Leech Seed, let the thing go to Suicune, and just get there. I think that's the only way. I think you click Calm Mind, and I think you just get there. I think that is the only way out of this. It might involve crits. It might involve freezes. Wow, back to Salamence here. Yeah, he does that just to... They do that just to get more lefties on Suicune. Fair enough. 58% Suicune. I choose you. Suicune or bust for SEA, or they will go down to the third place match. Megahorn misses. And Calm Mind. That's what C's looking for. All of a sudden, this gets interesting. How many Hydros do they have? Plenty. This might not be over. Obviously, C has to avoid being crit as well, but not really anything you can do to play around that at this point. Megahorn and Hydro. This could happen. This could happen. 2 Hydros would kill the Swampert here, and nothing the Swampert does back without a crit can kill the Suicune here. Suicune might just get there. Needs cooperative Hydro Pumps, but C could send us here. C and his Suicune and their Suicune might send us to Game 3. Hydro Pumps swing and miss on the Protect turn, but it would have missed anyway. How obnoxious. Misses again! And there is the Earthquake with the awkward damage roll of 29%, leaving it at 31%. This is so close. PP a factor here. Another Hydro Pump miss. And an Earthquake critical hit. There will be no Game 3. Baddummy all the way from play-ins to the Grand Finals. That is wild. C made it interesting at the end. They, I think C played that game very well. Calm Mind, Hydro Pump, Ice Beam substitute from C. Yeah, I think they played that game well. They, I mean, they said it themselves in the chat that, I don't remember the exact wording, but when you use Hydro Pump, it's eventually going to come back to bite you. You're just going to miss sometimes, and that's the trade-off of the move. And obviously, in this endgame, it missed a couple times, crucially. There was still the out pending that crit there of fishing for a freeze, but yeah, Hydro Pump is live and die with its accuracy, and in this case, it is die. Now, granted, had those hit, who knows? We had a whole Game 3 to play, and it could have gone either way, but as it stands, an incredible record-breaking performance. Baddummy all the way from play-ins to the advantaged seat in the Grand Finals, where he will face, I am going to spoil it now. So again, last time, if you haven't watched the previous match, turn off this video and go back and do that now. I'm going to spoil it. Mana against Fakes already happened, and the winner was Mana. So it's going to be in the third place match, a best of 5 SEA against Mana, which is a rematch from last year actually, and I believe Mana knocked C out of the tournament last year. And then waiting for the winner of that in the Grand Finals atop the throne in the upper bracket, our play-in player of all people, Baddummy, on the run of his life. CI7 drawing to a close. 2 to 3 more matches left in this tournament. Hit that like button if you've enjoyed the show, and I will see you in the next battle.